Best for last, right, Shweta? With your lesson on optionals.
Shall we start?
Yep, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Hey everyone, today we are going to learn the new lesson that is then options, which is quite interesting topic. Okay, so the Swift language has the ability to read the code and understand the data quickly. Okay, but sometimes the functions may or may not return the data. So at that time, Swift force us to deal with such kinds of scenarios. Okay, if we consider the general example that if we are having the valid data, or if even we are having a data, we are we are doing very well with our apps or the coding. Okay, but when it comes the scenario regarding that not having something, at that time we are facing many bugs and errors and all those things. Okay, so just to overcome this problem, the Swift has an interesting solution called as optionals. Okay, optionals are used to properly handle the situations where the data may or may not be present. Okay. So for these reasons, we are going to learn the optionals because we are having we found that many cases that not every time the data is present. Okay. Sometimes the data may be absent. So how to handle such kinds of situations? So it is necessary to learn the optionals. Okay. Now let's begin with the optionals. As you can see on the screen, the first term comes over here, the nil. Okay. Now the nil indicates that a value is missing. Okay. And as I have told, then optional represents two possibilities. Either there is a value and we can use it, else there is not at all any value. Okay. As you can see, we are having an example on the screen, we are working for the bookstore. Okay, and we are listing the books which we need to sell. We are having a book type. In that we are having a two properties, name and publication year. We have already specified the type as in string for the name and int for the publication year. And we also created an individual instances for this to specify the values to the those properties. Okay, now just so far so good. Just imagine that we want to represent a book called as Rebels and Lions. Okay, but that book hasn't published yet. Okay, so that's why we have not written anything in the publication year, because we are not having the data, because the book has not been published yet and we are not known the launch date of the book. So just just guess that what the value should we can give for the publication year. Any guesses? So please write in the comment box that what the value we can put for the publication year, although we are not having the known launch date. Zero. Okay. Anything else? Nil. Fine. Okay. A good response from your side. -1. Okay. Fine. Let me tell you. If I'm going to write the zero over for the publication year, that is it correct? So let's see that if we are going to write the zero, as you can see that zero isn't an accurate value. Okay, it may be mean that the book is over the 2000 years old, right? So we cannot write the zero just because it's not an accurate value. Okay, can I put the current year? Yes, no. Is it a accurate value to put the current year? Yes. Okay. No. Fine. No. Okay. That's the correct answer, just because as I have told that even I'm going to write the current year, it will be not accurate. just because why? It may be released the next year. Okay. And even I'm going to write the next year value like 2024, but still it will be also not accurate, just because the books can be published after the 2 or 3 years. Okay. So it's better to keep it as a nil, right? Just because the nil represents the absence of a value, right? And we are not having the value for the publication year yet, so it should be a nil, right? And that's look better even the like from the options of 0 or the current year. But oops, we got an error. Now just let me clear you regarding this error, why we are got the such kinds of error. The reason is that all the instance property must be set during the initialization, right? And that's why we can't pass the nil to the publication year, because as you can see, it expects an int value. Okay. And for such kinds of problems, we are having an solution as an optionals. Okay. Here is the solutions. Optional solve these kinds of problems by providing a wrapper around a value that may exist. Okay. Now, how you are going to use the optional? Just you need to add the question mark after the original type. Okay. And then you are good to go with this example. So yeah, this is what about the optional. Later on in our demonstration, we will try this example. Okay. Now, when it comes to the type of an optional, remember one thing. Okay. We can't create an optional without specifying the type, right? So it is necessary to specify the type when we want to create an optionals. Okay. So the first statement says us to that it is nothing but the regular int. Okay. 40 is nothing but the regular int, because we have not even the specify the type, even the optional. And for the second one, we have set it to the nil. Whether it is going to work? Yes, no? Okay, fine. No worries. It is going to create an error, right? Just because we have not specified the type when it was not nil. Okay, so that's why we need to specify the type while creating an optionals. Now, for this code, you can see we have created an optional. This statement says us that right now it has been set to 404, but could be later nil. Okay. And for this, for the last statement, it is going to say like that right now it has been set to nil, but could be whole and int later. Okay. So yeah, this is what about the specifying the type of an optionals. Now, the next one is the force unwrap. Okay, when we are working with the optional values, force unwrap is an operator. Now, the first scenario is that when it comes about the optional values, okay, when we are focusing on the values, the question comes in our mind that how we are going to determine whether the optional contains the value, and if it contains the value, how we can access it, right? So the answer is for this question that it could be done by comparing the optionals to the nil, okay, by using the if statement. Basically, this example says that if the value is not nil, we can unwrap value using a force unwrap operator. Force unwrap operator, that means this your exclamation mark which I have added to the end of the optionals. Okay. Now, let me clear about the force unwrap operator. When we put this exclamation mark at the end of an optional, that means we unwrap the value of optionals no matter what it contains. Okay. And if the what we can say, if the optional has a value, we can access it. But if it does not contain any value, the error is going to be occur there. Okay. It is going to throw an error if it does not contain the value. That means when you are pretty sure about if the optional contains the values, okay, then only you can use the force unwrap operator. And when it comes, but it seems to be, it's a good practice to use to compare the optional to nil, but it sometimes it seems to be redundant. Okay, so just add some more safety for this, and for that we will use the optional binding. Okay, optional binding unwraps the optional, and if it contains a value, just we are going to assign the value to a constant, okay, as a non-optional value. As you can see, the general syntax for the optional binding is it starts with the if let. We are declaring here the constants over here and some optional values. And then after it is available for the if clause. Okay. As you can see the example on the screen, if this book dot publication year, that means publication year, if contains some values, it should be assigned to the unwrap publication year. Okay. If it contains the value. Okay. After assigning the value to the constants, it will be available for the if clause. Okay, and if the publication year does not have any value, the else clause is going to be executed. Okay, so yeah, just the reason to deal with the optional binding is that just we are making it safe to work with it. Now the next one is about the functions and the optional. When it comes to the return values, okay, for this first example, as you can see, we are having a two constants, string and the possible number. For the string, we have assigned the string as in 1 2 3 by default, which is nothing but the numeric value, right? And for the second statement, we are trying to convert that string into int type. Okay, now my question is to all people that whether this string is going to be convert into an int type. Yes or no, please put it in the chat box. Whether the first statement is going to convert the string into an int. Yes, okay. Yes, exactly. Yes, it is going to be convert into the string. Okay, but what about the second statement? If the string is not going to be convert, okay. Now, for the second statement, as I have given the Cynthia as a string, okay. But for this, Swift infers for the possible number to be the type as like int question mark. Okay, just because the initializer for int takes a string as a parameter. Okay, that may or may not be successfully converted the string to the int. Okay, and if it do so, if the string is getting converted into int, the possible number should hold that value. And if it is not getting converted, the possible number should be nil. Okay, this is what about the return values. Even we are going to try this example in our demonstration. Uh, Now, defining about the functions. The first code example says that how to declare a function with an optional as an argument. Okay, for the print functions for this statement, we are it is going to consider the first name, middle name, and last name. As you can see, we have allow that middle name should be an optional, just because not everyone use the middle name, right? And same true for the second statement, that it returns the how to declare the function that it returns an optional. Okay, so this is what about the second statement. Now, fallible initializer. Right now we have just learned about the fallible initializer. Can anyone wants to recall what is meant by initializer or why we are using the initializers? Yes, no? Uh, Basically, we are trying, sorry, we are using the initializer all the time to create an instance of various type, right? And here we are using the fallible initializer, that any initializer that may return nil is called a fallible initializer. But the question comes that why to use the fallible initializer, right? Because sometimes not to return object if the initialization of one or more properties that they plays the crucial role in the type will be does not succeed. Okay, so fillable initializer allows us to do that thing because it can potentially return nil if one or more conditions are not satisfied. So here is the reason to use the fillable initializer. Okay, on the screen we are having a type as a toddler and it contains the two properties like a birth name and months old. Okay, let's see this example. Okay, now the question for as compared to this example, we can see that how we are going to recognize the fillable initializer. So here is the answer that question mark is added after the init keyword. Okay, in this particularly body of the init, we are just trying to let me first clear that what example exactly about the toddler. It's about the toddler who's has to be mentioned the name and the months of old. Okay, and for that particular reasons we are going to compare the two conditions in the body of init. If either any one condition is true, okay, the months old is less than 12 or the months old is greater than 36. Okay, even either one condition is true, it should return the nil. Okay, instead of assigning the value of month to the month old. So this is what about the fillable initializer. But when we use the fillable initializer to create a toddler instances, an optional will always return over there. So to safely unwrap the values, okay, it's just all about the safety, right? So to safely unwrap the values, we can use the optional binding. As you can see, we are using a iflet and all these things in within that. So it is nothing but to do a safely unwrap. Okay, I hope everyone is clear. If you are having doubts, please unmute yourself. Otherwise, put it in the chat box. Now, the next concept is about optional chaining. Okay. Basically, optional chaining allows us to work with several optionals. Like on the screen, you are having an example that type person will maybe have a residency and residency type will maybe have an address and the address type will maybe have an apartment number. Okay, so we are having it solution like by using a optional binding, right? But as you can see, it is completely when it comes to read this code or deal with code, it gets more complex, right? Because optional values may have an optional values. It sounds like that box within box. Okay, even it is will be considered a call as that what we can say nested optionals. Okay, so just being with the just it is going to be get more complex to deal with certain codes. So we are having a better solution to this to do the certain task. That is nothing but the optional chaining. Okay, here we can use this option because multiple queries can be chained together. Okay, and if any link in this chain is nil, then entire chain is going to be failed gracefully. So it is the concept of the optional chaining can that we can use a multiple queries together. Okay, instead of using such kinds of nested optional mm, statements. Okay, and the last one is that implicitly unwrap optional. Basically, it sounds like an automatically unwraps. Okay, uh, and this kinds of code we can see when we deal with the iOS development. Okay, when we create an outlet for that particularly objects, at that time you can see such kinds of code. Basic and due to that we should be only use that when need to initialize an object without supplying the values and giving the object a value soon afterwards. Okay, this is what about the implicit unwrap optional. Now let's quickly demonstrate some of the examples regarding the optional so we will get a clear idea. I hope the screen is visible and font size is also
Yep, it's good.
okay. Now, yes, you can see the first option which we have saw in the slide of the nil term. Okay. If you are going to run, then this properly is going to be work out. As you can see in the result panel, we are getting an output of it, right? But what if I'm not going to use the options over here and I'm putting the nil for the publication here? As a result, it is going to be generate an error. So that's why we need to make it as an optional so we can deal with the situations where the data may be not present. Okay. And when it comes to for the optional binding, here we have an example. Okay, I have created an one variable message. I have made defined its type as a string, make it as an optional. Okay, now can anyone tell me that what we are going to expect? What will be the expected output for this optional binding code? Any answer from your side? Yes, no. Any guesses? The else case exactly. The else case is going to be um, executed. Okay, just because why? Just I have make declare an variable and make it as an option, but I have not initialized, I have not assigned any value to that this particular variable. That means this message, just because the statements optional binding says that if this message, if this variable contains a value, do assign to this constant. Okay, and if it is so, if the value has been assigned, then it will be available for the if clause. Else, if it does not contains a value, then just execute the else clause. Okay, and as a result, I'll just print it. Okay, as you can see, we are having a result that no value found. That means the else part has been get executed, right? But what if I'm going to execute, if I'm going to assign the value to that variable? So just let's try it. Okay. Now just we are going to run, and as you can see, the if part is going to be executed. That means if the message contains a value, it is going to be assigned for this constant. That is nothing but the unwrapped
Sorry.
message. Okay. Now even I am having another example for you people. So can anyone tell me that what will be the expected output for this code? We are having a three variables, name, age, height, and just we are using a optional binding over here. Can it is going to be print all the values or making anything else or expect some other output? Yes, okay. Name, age, and height, right? Exactly. If you are try certain examples, you can see I'm having an output. The name is getting print, the age is going to be print, and even the height. So this is what about the magic of the optional binding. And even we can try the force unwrap operator. Okay, already we have assigned the value to the message. Just we will try the force unwrap operator. Print. Okay, in that I'm just, and here I'll assign the force unwrap operator. Now if I'm going to run this, yeah, you can see, just I'll make it comment. Yeah, you can see the output. We are getting an output when the value is present. Okay, but if you're making it an uncomment, if the value is not present and we are using the force unwrap operator, that it maybe seems to generate an error, right? So basically, unless we are not pretty sure that the value may be present, so at that time just avoid to use the force unwrap operator, because it may be crash our application or the program. Okay, but when the value is there, then when we are good to go with the force unwrap operator. Okay, Sorry. Yeah. Now, even for the fillable initializer, we will try just same examples which we have saw in the slides. Even any one of the condition is either a true, then only it should return the nil. Okay, if not, then it should execute the terms which we have used for the safety of as an optional binding. So as you can see, we are having an output over here. Okay, we have assigned the name and the months old to that particular toddler. This is what about the fillable initializer. And when it comes for the return values, okay, we have shown an example. Just make it let string signing 1 2 3 possible number, and just try to convert the string into the int. Okay, so I'll just run it. Yeah, so you can see the answer, the particular this string is going to be converted into int. In the first which we have shown the first examples regarding the return values, but when if I am going to assign some other value like my name, okay, at that time it should be nil. Okay, just because as I have told that if it going to convert the string into int, the possible number should hold that value, and if it is not, then it should be a nil. Okay, so as you can see, we are having a nil just because it was not getting converted. So here, so that's it about the optionals. I hope you all get it.
All right. Excellent. So comments, questions, feedback on the final lesson of the week. Okay, lots of applause. Hopefully everyone is writing down good, constructive criticism and feedback in your peer evaluation reports as we go, because you're going to be mailing those back at the end of today. Okay, cool. How do you feel it went?
To be very honest, I am feeling great and much more comfortable with the Swift. And special thanks to you, Matt. Just because of your guidance, I have do much more better every day. And even I am thankful to other participants for encouraging me.
Yeah, cool. It was good. Like you did a nice job touching on all the key points. Optionals are kind of a fun one to teach because they are sort of a unique Swift feature that help us write safer code and just avoid some really common errors. We also learn about that, a way to kind of shoot ourselves in the foot, sort of, with the exclamation mark, right? We can force unwrap things. But it's always, I always tell students that you should be a bit scared when you start putting exclamation marks in there to force unwrap things. Um, yeah, so like I said, you did a really good job explaining what the whole thing is. I would maybe the only thing that I would do to make it even better would be to present a scenario. So like you did a good job with the book scenario. Maybe even talk about a situation where we might have something that like we've constructed a scenario in the classroom, like we're inputting data about I don't know, I always give the beach cleanup example. Imagine we're collecting trash. So what are the kind of things that we need to collect there? What are things that would be nice to collect information on, but maybe we don't need to have it. We could have maybe different types of recycling. Well, if it's not recycling, then that could be optional, or something like that. So you can always work up some scenarios too that would even make it hit home better. Like I know if a few of you are in institutions where you're going to be basing a lot of this work around a project or around some goal that you're working on, that's a good opportunity to integrate these lessons and you know make them relevant to the project that you're working on. But yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought the demo was solid too because you went through all the key points and you showed off a bit of, what happens with failable initializers and you know that we can refer to. It's kind of a callback to that first constants, variables, and data types lesson where we did var x and then we tried to print it. Well, when you made it optional, it was okay. It didn't complain when we tried to use it at that stage. So yeah, well done.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our teach backs. Congratulations. Actually, let me just fix this thing up. Always love to see. Oh, and help if I'm not sharing that screen and sharing this screen here. Always nice to see that full green board. Um, okay, so what we've got next is we've got the lab discussions. Probably not for super long. Then we'll go into our teaching in Swift discussion. I think I have it blocked for well, it's less than an hour on there anyway. We'll have the tour of the app design workbook. We'll have our closing. Does anyone want to kick off the lab discussion? Mark, oh, perfect. We can even go down in the order that we've been following all along. So, Mark, if you want to take it over, we'd love to hear about which lab did you pick, and just give us a little walkthrough.
Uh, Hello, Matt. Um, I think I will take the segues and the navigation controllers.
Very cool.
Okay. Um, uh, I think my approach it's will start with the introduction to the segues and navigation controllers and explaining the concept of the segues and navigation controllers and the transition between the view controllers and navigation controller. And I will demonstrate the why we need the segues and navigation controllers, and why the concept of this concept is important to iOS app development. Um, um, After that, I will explaining the basic implementation of the segues and how you can trigger the segues programmatically and uh, the passing the data between the few controllers and how you can pass the data between few controllers using segues, explaining the prepare method. And after that, I will explaining the navigation controllers and navigation stacks and how you can manage um, the show of embed a few controllers within the navigation controller. After that, I will explaining the customization of the navigation bar, the title, the navigation bar appearance, adding buttons, modifying the navigation bar style, backgrounds, etc. And I will explain the push and pop navigations and the difference between the model presentations of the navigation. Um, Handling the navigation events, the back buttons, etc. Exercise, I will give exercise and practice for students. Maybe a small project for the best practice to use the segues and navigation controllers. Um, I think that's my opinion.
Okay, cool. So because one of the things, like at the end, so this is the, sorry, excuse me. the lab at the end of Segways and navigation controllers. And this is sort of, and it's okay. Maybe I'll have to be a little more clear. Like this is really what I was kind of looking for was sort of how you would walk through this. Have you implemented this login lab before?
Um, Actually, no.
Okay, that's cool. Because this is sort of what I was mentioning. So when I referred to these ones here, we have it's at the end of each of the lessons. There's a lab that we can walk through, and it tells you at the start. The objectives of this lab. It's kept very simple. Like we don't have to go too big. Like I love that you talked about covering all the different topics in Segways and navigation controllers. But this one is actually focused on, hey, we're going to create something that we're going to create all the time, a login screen or some screen where we have to pass data from one to the next. And we're going to really learn how to use prepare for Segway and perform Segway really well. Because that can be a bit magic, right? Doing this whole process. So we'll talk about using prepare for Segway here just to set up the next screen and be able to pass data over.
Mhm.
There's some interesting gotchas as well. Like we can't, if we're doing a segue, we can't immediately set a value that's going to show up on the screen
Mhm.
by setting it to an IB outlet or anything, because when we're still in that perform segue and prepare for segue space, it hasn't been wired up yet. So we'll actually have an error. Thanks to optionals and force and wrapping, we'll have a runtime error. So we want to, this is a really good lab to walk through to get students a good feel for, okay, when can I perform certain actions? Because some of it is down to timing, and I need to make sure certain things have happened.
Mhm.
So, but that was cool. Thanks. That was a good tour of what you would do to teach segues and navigation controllers in a class. That was good.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Armand, you want to go
Well,
next? Yeah, cool.
yeah, I'll go. It's like turn by by list. Like, actually, let me show my screen. So, and also chat, please. Oh, here's chat. Okay. Actually, I picked as a lab the implementation of calculator. Because I got the second lesson as auto layouts and stack views, and my way actually as we've seen on the in the book there is a lab and it's step-by-step implementation. It's really helpful, but maybe first I will show quick show our students how to make it, but just to so they have a little idea of how where to find this stuff, because in the book maybe it's as you see there is also pictures provided here and there, but sometimes it's really confusing when student is new to the SDK. So maybe it's better to show and where to find this stuff in practice. So I've implemented this one previously, and maybe I'll show them some shortcuts. If it's okay, I can implement it right here, but I'm not sure like if we have enough time. So I've implemented here on other project and just copy pasted here, so everyone can see. And it's a like kind of example for I just copied it from other project, and I can take as a referral and start building same project here on this view controller. Maybe and discuss if like why do we use view or why do we use stack view and where the magic happens. Where is the magic? So like for example, like we will discuss the view of the calculator, and we have like two sections, one for displaying data and one for inputs, and we will maybe discuss like what we have to use here. Obviously, you have maybe it's better to use a stack view here, so I will explain why. And why, like, where to find this stack view from the object library, starting showing like that the first stack view should be a vertical stack view, not like, because we have two sections and they are vertical, so it's like quite obvious. And drag and drop it here on the control view controller. Then explain like why our stack view is quite small, and that we have a full screen, so we have to apply some constraints to it, and why we apply constraints here, like it's top, bottom, trailing, and leading constraints, and set them to 0 because we want full screen. So we can see right here that it's already full screen on the canvas. Then maybe discuss that what else we need, and say that we have a here, and we have two views here, and it's better to so we will pass here two views. So because we have two different types of screen here, and then we will need like a view as a container. So when we apply a view here, it takes the parameters of the previous stack view properties of constraints, so also gain become a full screen. Then just show that we can copy Command C and Command V right here in the Explorer. Yeah. So just Command C and Command V, and explain that the second view controller is down there, so you can't see it here, but by control and dragging to the top view, we can set the equal, select the equal height, so the second view will be equal height with top, the main view. But we have here some problems with constraints. You can see the red lines here and how to solve this. So I will show them that you will select this view and go to the inspector, size inspector, and where you can find the previously set constraints, and we have equal height to view here, so we can edit it. And we explained what is multiplier here and why we have to set it to 166 or other, maybe 170, but for sake of keeping to the book, I will take this values, not change it, so students won't be confused. Then when we hit enter, we have solved these constraint problems. So we have two views, and they are these two views are located in the one stack view container. So it's automatically changed their values. So like we have already two views, so we can proceed for further. So then step by step, I will explain like how to enter labels, buttons, change colors, and maybe give some explanation regarding these two buttons inside, because there's kind of different buttons and different sizes, how to deal with them. Just shows that these two buttons must always like be the same size of the top buttons. So when we change the devices, they will keep the same size as top buttons, so they will be looking good and won't be another sizes and unexpected sizes. And so like so that's why, and maybe I will show off them the main stuff of the stack view, that it why it's like where is magic when you let's continue. So what do I mean? So when we we will discuss here at this point that maybe we have like 4 columns and 5 rows of the buttons and how we implement it. So we can see that there could be 2 types of stack view. One is for columns and one for rows. So which is better to first to make it first, and what stack view must be the second one? And in this side of the screen, so I would like to show that there is kind of hierarchy of these buttons where it's located. So you can drag and put them and change places. So you have them, you can move the buttons here, and it's really convenient of the Xcode. So it's really easy to move stuff around the screen. So you can edit here, and or maybe I will show some options like when you command and select some buttons to change all the colors here in the properties. So like if you want that you cannot, if like it's the options of the Xcode that you can do like operations to all the objects you wanted. So basically this is what I want to do on the lab. So maybe then after peer-to-peer, I will explain the problems if they have problems.
Yeah, very cool. And I love how this is a great lab to show off, especially to show some of the hidden depths of auto layout. Like the way you resize the view to 0.66 of the whole view. That's really, really well done because that's a lot of information that students don't normally get into that will really help them laying out their user interfaces and make them look good on an iPad, on different size phones, and everything. That's cool.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or maybe suggestions from our peers? Or we can listen to TT because he's choose the same one. Actually, I learned a lot from TT because actually our some topics was the same. So it's like you can see that the person is really experienced, and for me as a new teacher, I really gain experience here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, really well done. That's a great walkthrough of that lab and such a good one to use with your students. So Didi, do you want to go next?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I choose the same lab with Eman, and I will add some comment or some opinion from me. The step in the book is very clear, and I think in the same topic with Eman, when you before you start the lab, you will show the final result or expand some hierarchy in with expand some hierarchy of the stack view. Like you can use the whiteboard to expand or to explain, or you use something like the Presentify to annotate the screen to show the hierarchical of stack view. Maybe I will share my screen first. I forgot to share my screen. Okay. Before you start the lab, you will explain the hierarchical of the stack view. Maybe you choose use the whiteboard for necessary, or in online session you can use something like Presentify to annotate the screen to show them about like this stack view. It form this stack or this stack view. Or this stack view form from this stack,
زور
from this stack, like this. That will make more understand from your student. Do you got me? Yep. And this, and when they along when they make their lab by themselves, the student make their lab by themselves. Maybe you show the result on your screen or on the teacher screen, because when you uh, input the stack view, like this step. In this step, when you input the stack view in this step, in stack view is no have the button. Student will confuse when we add the stack and set the property of the attribute of stack view, and nothing happen in the view because there are no button in the view. Right? It just show the empty. They maybe cannot imagine what when you set up the stack attribute. It's better if you show the final project on the screen that they can reference when they set up their project in the attribute of stack view. Another thing I think, when you maybe you suggest to rename the view, because in the student handbook mentioned to when you set up the top view or the bottom view, but in the document hierarchy is show just view and view. Maybe you suggest them to rename use option and plus to rename this to top view and bottom view. That easier to refer when they make something on the top view and the bottom view. And when finish the lab, when they finish the lab, to connection to the design, in the book, we'll ask them to go to the go green example and challenge them to add some stack view or use the stack view to design the user interface. Maybe you can ask them to design their own app interface and plan the UI layout by using the vertical stack or horizontal stack. That help them to prepare the important basic skill to use the VStack and HStack in Swift UI. Yes, it's all.
That's great. No, I love the call outs you made to renaming the top view and the bottom view. Anything we can do to make it more clear, especially when our user interface gets very cluttered. With like this does with a lot of buttons, a lot of stack views. Great idea to, one, annotate the screen, and then two, rename those views so that you can more clearly see what they're supposed to do.
Thanks.
Very cool.
Who next?
So Bertie Orr, did you go through a lab, one of the labs from the Miro board?
Yeah, I choose a lab calculator too, and I have 1 minute. Okay, let's. To be honest, I started learning Swift recently and read several books, but it was the presentation of the data in the book developed in Swift Fundamentals that I really liked, and therefore I plan to conduct lessons on it in conjunction with presentation and laboratories. And so, if we do well on the methodology, then I will most likely warn my students in advance with lessons we will take and what we'll need to be read in advance in order to work most effectively in the lesson and understand the whole science of what is happening. When we entered the university, we had exactly this way. At first, we prepared for the lesson in advance, and at the lesson, as it were, we could already consciously discuss it and ask more complex questions to the teacher. Therefore, we got more benefit from the lesson. And I would like to dwell on the laboratory work calculator in the most interesting laboratory work. The moment where you really need to spend time in order to understand why this is done, why a vertical stack is added first and then horizontal one. It will be whole story. It was this place that made me think and reason a lot about why we should do it this way. Also, an interesting point in this laboratory, I will emphasize that there was a lot of work with details. For example, how to set up the relationship but of buttons with a number and buttons equals. It seems it is at such places that it becomes clear to the student that there is still a lot of learn, and for this it is worth a lot of practice. A very good point for students is that the buttons are slightly offset in the bottom row. It was for me that this thing served as very big motivation for a deeper study of auto layout. Most likely, a large number of people will notice such an straight aesthetic irritant and naturally begin to study a material in more detail in order to correct it. And it seems that I have everything. I said everything I wanted to express myself. And it's all for me.
Excellent. Thank you. And I agree. There is an offset in the buttons on the bottom row that drive every designer crazy in that lab. So yeah, it is good motivation for your students to say, okay, how do I fix this? How do I make it look like I know it should look? Great. Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, who would like to go next? Dalal, would you like to discuss the lab?
Yes, please.
Great.
So I will share my screen.
Perfect.
Wait. Okay. So we will go, wait. So firstly, we will go to take a lesson or take like a session to from to explain what's displaying data, how they using, and take a simple example for this one. Then we will take the lab and we will ask them to choose 3 to 6 pictures or images about their hobby. After that, how can we drag it into assets? Then we will create a project together. Before we will create project together, then ask them to put all images into assets, then create their storyboard and add their hobbies or images into it as the student want in order. They will order it like they who they what do you like to order your storyboard. You can do it. Then we will explain it together. I will ask them to add labels for each hobby. And I will check with them how can we add the labels and how can we edit the labels from attribute inspector, and how can we change the layout for the screen, and how can we change all images order if we want. Then we will if you want to add more description for each hobby, you can do it or not. And it's best practice for display, and I will show the importance for this lab to it's best practice to using pictures and labels, images with labels, and motivate them to new ways for displaying different kind of information with using images and labels. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. That's good stuff. That's a fun one to run in class too. If you do have like a theme of the week or something, maybe your class is studying nature or something, to say, okay, cool. You could do a hobby tutorial like the chess one that you have, or say, oh, let's go identify different types of trees or insects or something. So yeah, very cool.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Fuad, do you have a lab you wanted to walk us through?
Yep. Just hang on. Wait, let me just get my shared screen. Base. Wait. Right now, actually, this is actually is the continue from the topic that I taught. All right, control in actions. All right, so the lab, I just continue with it. Right. So basically, I'm going to actually first. Usually, what I do is actually when for the lab, right, I will give an overview, what the expected outcome, so that students have a basic idea before they start the lab, right? So with that, I actually show them the sample, how it should look like, right? So this is something that they need to do, and then I'll brief them what are the controls that should be included and so, right? Matt, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I thought my mic is not working. All right, so I will demonstrate, all right, how this thing will work first. All right, so then we will have a very quick one, so that since I've actually do the demo in the part of the demo already in a lesson, so now I'll ask them, okay, what are the possible things that you will probably, okay, list down what are the controls first, and then what are the actions that you probably do need to actually work with based on what they have seen it in a lesson. Then only I will actually let them start working on it. All right, so once they actually work on the basic one already, then I will actually start move on to the next part, where now let's look at it. Okay, since we actually try out the so-called the controls already and implemented what is required in the lab, that which is actually allowing the text field, right? And then you can actually set the text and pass it through a label, right? And then you can do the clear text now. Okay, so now let's think, okay, what can we do with this? So probably they will give some suggestions. Then I will also read, okay, at the same time later I will associate them to the login screen. So with the login screen, then I will start explaining to them that things like, okay, you have the username and password, that two text field. All right, so let's try it out. All right, so we do a username and password, all right, input, and we lay it out accordingly. And then we have the two buttons, okay, login or what do you call that, reset or clear the both text field. And then then later I will tell them, okay, let's try out now. For example, then when the user do login, then we do a simple checking when the user press on the button action. That, all right, they tap on it, then we'll check whether inside there is actually a string or something that they've been keyed in. So that is actually, we do a very simple verification, validation. All right, and then we will have a preset password, then we do a string matching, and then we see whether, okay, let them experience, okay, how a user login screen works. And then probably I will ask them to actually put in a label, and then the prompt message, okay, username, user login and password is not matching, and so on. Right, so then from there I actually move on to actually even ask them, okay, now let's look at this. Since we have this very basic one and we already try out the username, login and password, why not we actually go a little bit further? Let's say we design a screen that actually has the what they call registration. Then, okay, what are the controls that you probably will use to actually make up a registration screen? So I'll let the students suggest, right? Then I'll explain to them which are the controls that is relevant to it, especially probably like date, how we're going to actually allow the users to key in using a date picker and share a little bit. And also on top of that, right, well, the conventional way of it is actually the guide actually provided is actually using the shortcut, the control drag to the to connect for the IB outlet as well as the IB actions. So now I'm going to actually give them a scenario, okay, to show them how we're going to actually, without actually creating the IB actions, how can connects to the IB actions, how can we actually make the button actually use a control to actually add, we add the actions to the button rather than is using the code rather than we actually connect it. So that I'll give them the scenario as well. So then on top of that, then it will be actually discussions about how we're going to actually do a little bit of layout so that we make the screen actually, the components actually, the controls all looks neat in terms of it. As well as in the text field, we can actually do what kind of settings inside there, like such as password, we need to hide away the character and so. So generally that is the lab. All right.
Okay, cool.
So
That's cool. Right, I like that you had an idea for a progression in mind, which is a great way to work things as you slowly build up. That's very cool.
thank you.
All right, cool. And last but not least, again, Shweta, do you want to, do you have a lab to walk us through?
Yeah. Just let me share my screen. As I pick up the lab as an about me, about the tab bar controller. Okay. So my strategy is like that. Firstly, we will have the sessions. Okay. In that, I'm going to give the brief introduction about the lessons. And I'll make sure that after completing the sessions, the student should get clear idea regarding the topics, that what is the topic, why we are going to learn this topic, and how we are going to implement that. Okay. And after having the presentation, completing the presentation, I'll suggest the students just to go through this source material which has been provided to them in detail, because 90% of the things are going to be learned from this source material only, because in this we are having an each and every steps to be given, and where I think that it will be helpful for the students. After giving the overall and brief introduction regarding the tab bar controller, I'll suggest them to go through from the demo. Okay, like demo lab, like this rainbow. Okay, this is nothing but the demo lab for the example. In that, they are going to explore the certain new things like tab bar controllers, how to add the tab bar controllers, even how to drag it. Okay, from the object library. And after that, I'm going to show them that how we can customize the tab bar items, how we can do many more things with the tab bar items. Okay, even we can add our own images to the tab bar items instead of using the system generated. And then after, I'll show them regarding the programmatic customization, because as that sometimes storyboards does not allow to do the runtime changes, right? So at that time, we can accomplish certain things by doing the customization with our programs. And the last but not the least, uh, I'm also going to teach them that how they are going to link the tabs to the code, because it is very important thing, right? Just going through the tab bar, that will be not sufficient for the particular topic. Then, because individual code should also be get linked to the tab, because each tabs having its own different relevant content. And after going through this example, I'll focus on the challenges, what they are going to be done. Okay, I'll prepare them to have the strategy, like firstly understand what is the challenge, figure out what the solution will be there, and just implement it. Okay, just because till the students are not going to try and test certain things, they are not getting the things in a correct way. And when it comes to the practical about me, this is nothing but the lab. I'll tell them that how we can take the tab bar controllers from the object library, which is a general approach. Even I'll just teach them how we can use the embed-in options, in which scenarios we can use it. Okay. And after that, I'll also explain them that how the relevant information can be generated on each and every tab. Here, as we can see, we are having the labels and the image view, right? So I'll just make the clear things regarding how we can use the image view, how we can do with the lots of things with the labels. And my suggestion will be the students is that when we comes on the interface builder, just play with the attribute inspector, because we are having lots of things to be done over here. Okay. So yeah, that's it for the labels and the image view. Even I'm going to suggest them to try the app before applying the constraints, because they should know that what the importance of constraints exist over the applications. I'll just tell them that basically initially just try with a simple labels and image view, change the orientation of phone, change the devices, and they will supposed to do that things, and they will find out that something is going to missing, some values is getting misplaced. And then after, I'll teach them how to apply the constraints so that it will remains in all devices, the things are not going to be misplaced. So yeah, and even I will suggest them after completing this lab successfully, do more practices and create more applications. If they are going to do the much more practice, they will be fluent while doing the iOS development. So yeah, this is what the strategy I have made to teach the students.
Very cool. All right, that's excellent. All right, thank you everyone for going through the labs. Appreciate that. They are great things to run in your classroom, and they do give your students something concrete to put their skills to work on. And then, we can make that leap next to say, okay, cool. Well, what do you want to do next with this About Me app? Do you want to turn it into I know we've had exercises where we've turned the About Me into About My City, so you can give it to friends who visit from other countries or other cities. And it becomes a bit more of a useful app where they add information maybe about their school or about where they live, and lots of interesting facts to give out to the tourists who might be visiting. All right, very well done. We are flying through our final day here. So we are going to take just a quick break, just a 10-minute break. I'm going to go share my screen. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. We've done all of our teach backs. We've done all of our talking about our labs. The next thing up is we're going to do a little Teaching Swift discussion. So I would love to hear from each and every one of you. No need to share any slides or anything unless you really want to. Just to go around and talk about where you'll be teaching Swift at your institution or how you plan on doing it. I know JUSON Singularity are doing some interesting stuff. Of course, the Apple Developer Academy are also, but we want to hear from everybody. And then we'll give a quick tour of the App Design Workbook and probably finish up a little bit early today, give you some more extra time for your weekend, extra time to finish filling out those peer evaluation forms and send them back to me so I can close off those evaluations and send them back to you probably early next week. All right, so we'll see you in about 10 minutes. In your own classrooms. In fact, and I should have had this ready, and I don't. I'm going to paste a resource that I've developed that is basically just teaching Swift sort of tips and tricks. Obviously, Apple and myself, we don't, no one's forcing you to teach the material a certain way, but I know I've had a lot of questions over the years about, well, how do I teach this? How do I run this Swift programming as an actual course? So Brenda actually had me write up a document about some of the advice, some of the ways that we've seen people teach the material, from the developer academies to Toom to you name it. Loads and loads of boot camp styles. So I've written up a document that I'm going to paste into the chat in a second, where you'll see what other people have done that might give you some ideas if you're just starting out and you're not sure where to start. Is there anybody who'd like to go first, who's like, oh, wow, I think I've really got a good way to teach it? I know at the Developer Academy, you'd be a great candidate to just give us a brief overview of how you do it. So Mubarak, Dalal, do either one of you want to just give a brief overview?
I don't know about if I'm a brief for myself. How can I'm learn Swift, or for this journey?
No, I was more thinking, how do you teach? I know you're at the Developer Academy. So do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the process? I know instead of students, you call your students learners. It's all challenge-based learning. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Basically, I'm learning Swift from my colleagues in Apple Developer Academy in KSA. We meet each day and discuss topic, what the best practice for this topic to deliver for the student. We call the students as a learner, because it's not students. We are not a school. We like a place, like we all together learning, and we are learning also from them, and them take like advance from others. So basically, we meet each we meet sorry we meet each other and discuss topics, and how can we deliver for the learners, and what's the best practice, and if them have a new thing or new technology Swift, or something want to talk about, they can tell us about this, and we try some new technologies between us. Then if it's works, we will deliver this for learners. So I'm really appreciate your time, your effort, Matt, and give us examples and feedback for each topic we deliver, and to make it better for next time. We really appreciate it. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
You're
That's all.
welcome. Does anybody have any questions for Dalal on the Developer Academy?
Or Mubarak, I know both of you are at the Developer Academy.
Yes, we have in the Developer Academy, we have actually like guiding activities. So when we applied for session or workshops, we have the three approach. The first one is a session, and it's like a lecture, and sorry. Yes, it's like a lecture, and the second one it's a workshop, and it's like we give the learners some examples and some like instructions for starting the workshop, and the senior learner like me or other my colleagues, and try to implement the code with the learners and walk through with them. And if it is have a real implementation. So this is the second approach, and the third one is like a lab. We give them resource and guidance and maybe a starting project, and they can search about it and implement it. And if they have any questions, they ask the senior learner. And as my colleague Dalal said, we call them we call the learners or junior learners, and we are the senior learners, and we actually we sometimes we learn from them, and the opposite maybe the general way it's learn from us, and sometimes we learn from them, and we all learners. And this is I think that's in all community and the development and the programming, we still learning, and we don't know everything. So every day we learn something new. And from you guys, from Matt and from you, it's a great opportunity to have some notes and some guidance from you guys. And thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mubarak. That's great. Yeah, it's very interesting. You know how, as Matt said, it's all challenge-based learning at the Apple Developer Academy. So, and you guys are doing such great work. So, thank you also from us to the work that you're all doing there. Fabulous. Shweta, in India, do you want to talk about your institution and how you are currently integrating the curriculum?
Yes. I just want to tell you that our institute believes in a multidisciplinary learning, right? And we come to found that our students are much more curious to learn about the Swift language. We have already built an infrastructure for them. We are already having 2 faculties certified. Okay. So we are having a good sequence, and this year we have found that even the first year of the students from BTech, they are much more interested to learn the Swift language. We will conduct them a challenge-based learning, right? Just have the sessions, and immediately they can do the hands-on sessions. So it makes a good effect in the learning. So yeah, that's it.
Fabulous. And which parts of the curriculum do you use? Or
Sorry?
which part of the curriculum, of the Apple curriculum, do you use?
Regarding the fundamentals?
Yeah, are you using some of the Apple curriculum?
No, we need to integrate with the semester-wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Does anybody, okay, let's go to Arman.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
A bit missed. As I said before, I work in a Rusan Singularity School. We have like private IT school, and I would like to share my screen so you have a like show of our Instagram. So you have a so you can see this is our Instagram. So it's better to explain you here about our school. So we teach different kind of stuff. Also, we teach Swift, and we have, this is our teachers, the mentors. The Arhad, the first one who got certified, if you remember, he certified, I think, the last year, maybe in November, something like that. So we run courses for kids. Like we have a collaboration with iTeacher Academy. It's our company, Kazakhstani company. They provide Apple for education products in our country. we made a collaboration with them and teaching. There is the most information is in Russian, so I'll try to translate you. So it's like a Swift for kids with special needs. So like if they have a disability, some kind of, we teach them free workshops for them. And also we have a long 6 months courses as iOS developer, and we have here you can see the background, our Apple class. It's new computers, Apple M1 chips with. So he says like the Arhat introduced that we are inviting in. You can have this kind of presence from our school, and we are inviting to participate in our Instagram advertisement programs. So here is another the results of Sweets intensive for kids. So this is these guys who made the best project. So they won the merchandise from our school. And that's also, we do small courses on, this is another, you can see here, the other guy, Smagul, our teacher, also he teach Swift for kids. And what else? So there was a video, but I can't play it, so I don't know, there's some kind of problem with Instagram. Maybe, so I can't, I would like to show off the process and how many kids we had there. This is our another teacher, Babers. He also got certified. So I'm the next one who would like to certify. Also, we run some kind of webinars, free webinars with also iTeacher Academy to telling about the WWDC and how you can participate there, or what's it all about. So in short, this is our school, and we try to integrate the Apple products or Apple teaching materials in our lessons. Maybe there is a short video so you can see like what we teach here. There is the Swift Start program for kids. So you have a short video here. So what we do, this 2-week program, but it's quite intensive. So we just telling like if else cycles, while, outlets, actions. So everything we have in fundamentals, we try to give it in two-week program. But it's just, how can I say, it's because it's for kids, it's not like a professional one, but at the end, they have a small project, small game, this game when you implement the game. So then after kids can have an idea what is Swift and what is iOS development all about. And that it's not a rocket science, so everybody can handle it. So they won't be like thinking like, oh, it's too hard for me, or maybe it's too complicated. Well, everybody can handle it. So, but we try to translate books and information and give it in Russian or Kazakh, because not all. Now, not many people know English very well, so they can read straight away from the book. So we try to translate or give maybe small materials. So this is all about our school. If you have any questions, I can answer.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I remember quite a few of those faces, Bob and Arhat and Smagul, and yeah. Great group of instructors you have there, and I love the programs that you run.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. It looks amazing. The facilities look amazing, so modern. You're very creative in how you're, working with the kids. And yeah, so I know Yulia from iTeacher.
Yulia is from iTeacher Academy. She really is supportive, and she always engaging in process. She always invites her for if we have like any exhibition or something like that. She always invites us to have a part in this exhibitions, or even so we run some webinars with her together. So it's like
Fabulous.
we are like kind of ambassadors of
Yes.
Apple education here in our country.
Yeah, which is fantastic. You know, you're representing, you know, the opportunities around iOS for kids, etc. So Armin, it's amazing. Have any of your students entered the WWDC challenge?
I think no, because we are just starting. Because
Yeah.
we only 1 year today. I mean, this year we only got like 1 year old for our school. So I think in the future we will probably participate.
Yes, exactly. That would be fantastic, you know. Brilliant. So maybe we'll go to Southeast Asia. Does anybody there from, you know, like to talk about how you will or are implementing the courses?
Okay, let me Nick.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Brenda.
Oh, yeah.
Firstly, I really thank you and Matt, to run the fantastic workshop. Hello,
You're welcome.
can you hear me?
We can?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Firstly, thank you, both of you that run the fantastic workshop, and thank you, Kun A, that invite me to join this class. And in fact, I already run the Swift programming section in when I teach in the university already. And in fact, I have a class for 5-day workshop next week. The name the Zero to Hero for high school students and their teacher to build some coding camp in their school. And everybody, when you teach the Swift or app development, everybody, student and teacher, love the project-based learning. Maybe you can teach about the concept, then in the last lesson, or in the back, or in the last unit, you will ask them to build some project. I will show you my material that I teach teacher and student, that based on the own book, app development with Swift, and some topic or some detail I'm update with the develop with Swift. Okay, I will show you my screen. Okay. Firstly, I'm for the London for the 5-day workshop is a lot of slide. Sorry. Wait a minute. Okay, this is a lot of slide, more 400 or 500. 400 or 500 slide. I will start to prepare some equipment and prepare some basic knowledge. When you start with some computational thinking, prepare them to familiar with the interface, the tool. Then maybe this is adapt from your book, that to teach them how do we code in Swift language, and use the Swift playground to learn about coding. Then after that, when you teach some target action pattern, you will mention to some design pattern like model view controller, something like this. And when you talk about the OOP or object oriented programming, it's very conceptual. You can implement some project like this. Teacher and student, everybody like game. They need to build some game. You can ask them to create some project like this and apply the concept of object-oriented something like this. You can ask them to create the game character, the hero that inherit from game character, and the monster from game character that they can apply the override method in their character, and then they can create some file in the project to keep the model and the classes. Then in the controller they can create some instance from hero and monster, then and code some attack method, something like that, or reset button. That they love to build the output product, something like this. That the way I teach, and I try to make some book that they can use to learn by themselves after the camp. Something like if you need to create a temperature converter, like you mentioned in your original book, they can use this to follow and try to code by themselves. This is for Pokemon battle, like in the workshop, or maybe use the array to make some game that complex and complex more than I mentioned in the workshop, something like that. This is the calculator that modify from your material. This is all of my material that I share for all of you.
Oh, very cool. Very comprehensive amount of work too. 500 slides is a lot of slides. Very cool.
Excellent. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for showing us that. Hua, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about what you're doing or will be
I
doing?
think, yep, thank you. Right. So generally, it's relatively new from my side, but since we are actually private institutions, but we used to do actually conduct workshops for school students as well as even school teachers. Sometimes it's upon request, and sometimes it's actually we have actually like CSR kind of things to share knowledge with students and also create awareness. So we do run some awareness campaign as well every year. So we usually these are the kind of workshops that we will do. Besides that, internal wise, right, we don't have per se, we have actually a Swift programming subject, right? Because making changes to the program because we are actually tied together with our sister university. So what happened is actually we changes to our programs subjects, right, is affecting the student transfer to the degree program. So everything we have to do realignment. But being said that, we do have actually our Mac lab, which was set up, all right. Then actually the sister university actually they do conduct that as well for teaching Swift programming and iOS development. So from our side, we do have students also doing projects and so on. So we usually conduct workshop for every semester for different senior groups of students to prepare them for, as one is actually to the industry. The second one is also for their projects. So that will be actually an ongoing process. So usually like the materials from the exploration and as well as the fundamentals will be the great materials for us to actually as a standard reference. And instead of students actually go around and look for books and so on. So that is what we actually intended to do. And my superior are very supportive. That's why coming along that we have another few more colleagues will going to join this kind of T3 workshops. And anyway, a big thank you to both of you actually offering this, and I managed to actually sign up because I actually registered for the first sessions, but the previous session, unfortunately, the list was full, so I couldn't make it for that. That is a little bit from my side because eventually it still have to depend on my superior what will be the direction, but we are actually heading towards the directions of actually offering iOS development.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Will we go to Berdier?
Yeah,
From Academy?
yeah, I can. First, I would like to thank everyone, especially Matt and Brenda, for this course. It's magic, it's cool, and I very like it. It was very interesting and useful to learn about how Swift is taught in different countries and to hear comments in my direction. Regarding which I correct my teaching methods. And 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute. It seems that in the previous conversation, I was talking about exactly this instead of how I will conduct laboratory work. But again, I think that the book provided is very well structured, and it is on it that I will teach Swift, and the presentation provided will be very useful to show them to students during the lesson. And to be more precise, then we will introduce iOS development course in our academy, and we will take Apple Books as a basis. And the course will be aimed at those who want to start developing for iOS. But in the future, it is planned to introduce advanced iOS course as well. And it's all for me.
Great. And actually, Didi mentioned that you use the old app development with Swift books, which is much larger than developing Swift fundamentals because those were split.
Yeah,
App development with Swift was
it's
split
understand.
into data collections and fundamentals. So that's a great resource for when you do advanced Swift iOS programming. Developing Swift data collections is a great place to go next. In fact, we're doing a course on that in June, I think, that I better get preparing.
Thanks.
Yeah. So Matt is running a couple of workshops around data collections. So it's you. I can send you the invitation to that, so you can attend if you want to delve a little bit deeper into that course as trainers.
Yeah, I will do it.
Oh, great stuff. Love to see the wide variety of presentation styles and institutions and how this material is being pushed out there.
Now, Dinesh, I know you were observing this week, but do you want to have a little, do you want to kind of say how you will be teaching?
Yeah, yeah. Hello, hello. So I was
Hi.
able to have a talk here. Yeah. So I actually sort of enjoyed being an observer. Why I took as observer because was occupied with so many things, and here as a assistant professor, I'm teaching C programming, even Java, and Python. So I'm sort of packed up with all different languages, and then going for this Swift was a bit tough for me. So being Apple.
Dinesh, I think your network stopped for a second. You're back, I think.
Yeah. But then that's why I took this opportunity, and I'm really thankful for giving me this opportunity to be an observer. And here in our college, we are planning, like, we have set up a lab of 25 desktop and this 3 MacBook, and our 4 staff members are into this training. And then we are looking for this having to set up maybe a center of excellence for this Swift and start on some training sessions here itself. So that is what have been discussed with me by our HOD. And then we are looking forward for all of this. And hopefully, maybe in June, I would like to be as a here for this T3 session.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think that shows incredible dedication to
too.
come on, and you've been on pretty much the whole week, and it's so valuable to see how other people present and see the feedback that they're getting from their peers and every corner. So no, I think that's great prep you've shown, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you in June or whenever you can make it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it's amazing all the fantastic work you will be doing, I mean, Apple should be so proud that we have all these highly skilled, talented, nice people that are teaching, iOS to our students, it's fantastic. Like Apple, we're not a training company. That's not what we do. But you're passionate about teaching, you're passionate about upskilling your students and giving them, great opportunities. So I think, from myself and Apple and Matt, thank you so much for doing the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and the dedication that you showed this week, going and preparing so much. Everyone put in so much preparation for their lessons this week. We really appreciate it because it just shows that you're so keen to, just get better at presenting this material and also do an amazing job presenting the material. So well done.
Now, as you can probably hear, there's background noise here. There's somebody taking down a wall in my garden, so excuse the background noise. I think we've done everybody, haven't we? We haven't missed out on anybody, have we?
I think we got everybody.
I think so. So, Matt, do you want to take a little break before delving into the workbook, or do you want to speed ahead?
I think if you guys are okay, we can go dive right into it, and we'll be able to. It'll just be a little 15-minute presentation to show you the kind of ins and outs of it, what it's all about, why you'd be interested in showing it. You may have heard me say why a few times this week, and then then we'll kind of be on our way.
Yeah.
So let's
That sounds good to me. We can finish up a little bit earlier today. So, yeah, if people can stick around for not stick around, that sounds that sounds terrible. For the next 15 minutes, we go through that, and then we finish up.
Yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
if you can suffer through the next few minutes, that'd be great. So look, this is the document that I was talking about. I pasted a link to it in the chat. It just includes tips and tricks on if you're starting from scratch and you're like, how are we going to approach this material? It gives you some different delivery options. It highlights some tools, some of the other tools like certifications for you and your institution and your students. And it's just stuff that I've compiled over the years working with educators like yourselves. It talks about the different ways you can teach the material. The most popular, it gives some resources on challenge-based learning. Most popular, of course, are these. Everyone says, I don't have a lot of time and I want to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. So I've given a few different options for boot camps and rough schedules, kind of what I tend to cover over a week in courses like this. So this is one sample one that I threw together, I think for some government initiative in Georgia, where they were looking to teach developers iOS skills, and we only had 4 weeks. I simplified a bit for new coders and then gave a rough timetable of what kind of happened each day. So I'm not going to go through that whole document because you can go check it out yourself if you're interested. And if you have any questions, my email address is plastered all over it. So if you want to drop me a note, or if you're like, oh, I'd love to highlight how my institution does it, we treat it differently, feel free to jump in and shoot me a note, and I'll add it in the next edition, because it isn't a particularly static document. There have been a few revisions of it as we've gotten more info or just tried different things. So definitely worth checking out if you're approaching teaching this material. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is not when we're going to return at. It's this piece over here on the Miro board, the App Design Workbook. Just a quick poll. How many people have seen the App Design Workbook before? Just a quick yes or no. Yes if you've seen it, no if you've not seen the App Design Workbook before. If everybody says yes, my job is way easier. Excellent. Okay, we have a no, we have a bunch of yeses, a couple no's. All right, that's cool. So this is just a high-level overview. If you read through the whole of Develop in Swift Fundamentals, there are app design resource lessons now, so it actually calls out to this book. You can download the app workbook itself here. You actually already have it if you've downloaded the teacher materials or the student materials for Develop in Swift Fundamentals, because it's included in the resources. I also have a link to some iOS templates. It's sort of just a doctored one that I'll show you in a bit from the Apple provided one. And then I give you some links to other places to get these resources as well. So let's take a look at the App Design Workbook itself. So I'm going to drag this guy out. So I have a few different versions. The whole idea behind this App Design Workbook is it's a Keynote file. It's massive, not as massive as TD's lessons, but it's pretty massive. There's a lot of slides in here. The whole point of this being a Keynote document is that you can edit it to your heart's content. The idea is that you use this workbook as an actual workbook in class. You print out some of the pages, maybe you digitally pass them out for folks on iPads, so they can kind of do some of their thought work. The App Design Workbook encourages here with the workbook itself. This is one of my favorite pages because it talks about the cycle, because this is the cycle. And all of the information in this App Design Workbook is taken from teams at Apple. It was funny when this first came out. I think I mentioned it the other day. I was like, oh my God, why did they generate this huge document for just shipping an app? But as I sat down with it, I realized actually this describes all the processes that we would follow in the teams that I worked on at Apple, every single team. And it hit me that actually a lot of people don't know how to successfully ship an app. There's so many different methodologies people use to try to make sure that they can define features well and build them and test them and then get them out the door and make their customers happy. That it hit me that actually we had a really good thing going at Apple, and all of our teams were really strong at defining what it is we're going to build, prototyping it, showing it to different people along the way, testing that out as we're building out that prototype, and then validating our ideas, and then quickly iterating. You learn very quickly at Apple, and I'll show you one of my favorite slides here. After we have the overall overview of the process and kind of what the pieces are, one of my favorite slides is this one here that kicks us off. On the whole process. And it's because of this line here: be observant and keep an open mind. That's what we were always encouraged to do. So that when you built your prototype and you showed it to someone, you usually got a lot of feedback. The way it worked at Apple is we would work on a feature, we'd think it was kind of cool ourselves, maybe you and another engineer, and we'd say, oh, cool, let's show it to our boss. And you'd show it to your boss, and he or she would give you a bit of feedback, sometimes good, sometimes bad. If it was bad, you went and fixed things. If it was good, passed up to their boss, and then their boss. For example, we did that with AirPlay. A few of us engineers were monkeying around with. We had a problem. We wanted to keep watching the movie that we were watching on our iPad when we got home, but throw it up on the big screen TV. So we came up with an implementation of AirPlay, just mocked up. We showed it to our bosses. They showed it to their boss. Showed it to Eddie Q, who then one day called us and said, "Do you know what? I love that feature that you just demoed. That after all the revisions, we're going to show it to Steve." The panic ensued. Steve came down to one of our offices, and we walked him through the demo. And it was never a case of, "Hey, this is the finished product, Steve. Let's go ship it. Go put it in the keynote tomorrow." He would sit down and ask you lots of probing questions, stuff you didn't think about oftentimes. Like, are we thinking about in the right direction? Does it need to work both ways? That kind of thing. And after our little demo, he actually went away and said, "Okay, cool. Well, I'll sleep on it." So our 6 weeks of work and going up through the ranks meant that all of our prototypes and all of the questions that we had answered along the way, we're now sitting with Steve, who had the big decision. And luckily, we got a call from his admin the next day, and the admin said, "Yep, go for it. You know, let's make it into a finished product and ship it." So that's how we followed that same process. And we went through a lot of changes where we had made certain assumptions in the beginning, and we had to keep an open mind. As our vice president, our senior vice president, said, "Actually, I don't think people are. This isn't going to work for people. It works for you because you guys are geeks, but that's not going to work for the normal person that we're targeting this at." So this is a huge slide for me to always remember to keep an open mind. So for this first section, this is all about defining what it is we're going to build. We can't do a very good job prototyping if we don't know what it is we're building. And this whole orange section, this define section, helps us get a definition in one of two ways. Sometimes we could have too many ideas, and this will help us through a bunch of these exercises to narrow it down. And I really like this because we have a form template that I know I've created a Miro board out of, so we can actually do this as an interactive workshop. And it's got some examples. So just in case this is a little bit too abstract, we've got some examples of, okay, this is the type of person that we're targeting this app or this feature at. So we can go through the whole exercise of being as detailed as we like. So we can kind of hold them as our North Star. Okay, we want this father of two, a kindergarten teacher, to be able to use our app. That's one of our primary targets. And I always tell my students, oftentimes, especially when they're younger students, the most successful apps you build are the ones aimed at you. So even go define yourself. So, all right, cool. I'm a high school student. I like to monkey with computers, and I'm really into field hockey. Okay, cool. That defines your user, and will help remind us, even though it's yourself, so you should be pretty well reminded, but it reminds you who you're actually building this for. I do like that it encourages diversity along every step of the way, because even though we're targeting a one specific user, we want to make sure that lots of different people can use our app and take advantage of it. So that's the first, just setting up who are we actually building this for. Then we get into the app itself. So we will need to get our feature. We need to get a hold of the key problem that people are having and what is the solution we're building. Now, if you don't have an idea at this stage, or maybe you have too many ideas, that's cool. This is where we write them all down. And we can we're going to break them apart in just a bit. So if you have too many ideas, this is a great place to put them all on the whiteboard, sticky notes, or on a Miro board. Or if you have no ideas and you're like, you know what, I really want to build an app. I'm learning how to code. I would like to, I'm having writer's block. I've got a white screen in front of me. What do I build? You can go and get inspiration from a page like this, where it just lists some of the capabilities of the devices we're working with. This is really big because one of these might jog something in your students or yourself to say, oh yeah, actually, June, I'd love to do something with augmented reality. Let me figure out what's the problem I'm actually trying to solve with something like this. So maybe by looking at the capabilities available to you, that'll help you say, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I know what I want to build now. I want to build maybe a treasure hunt app for my kid's birthday. Okay, great. Well, we'll use the map for that for sure. Maybe we could use some NFC or GPS as well. But we can go through and select the different items in here and call them out when we're trying to think about building out some kind of solution. Okay, then we get into the planning phase. This is where we're going to take all those ideas that we have and we're going to start to think about what existing solutions are out there and how are we going to make our app different. We also go through the really important step that I know in a lot of companies that I've been at since and before Apple, they really struggle with this part, just prioritizing features. You have to make it very clear to yourself and to your students and everybody who's working on the app, including the customers waiting for it. So if you're building it for your parents or your friends, let them know, hey, we've got all these ideas for features. You know, you can see here we've got 10 listed. We're going to prioritize though, and we're going to pick the first 4, maybe the first 1 or 2 even, and work on just those first. But that's not to say that we're never going to get to the other stuff. This is a cycle. So we're going to have another release come along and another release and another release. So it's not done. We won't never get to host a storefront for recycling supplies. That's just a bit further down the tracks. And when we ship those first 4, we might realize that, oh, you know what? Actually, people aren't using the education piece. Maybe they know about recycling already. So we might even shift some of these priorities as we go. That's the beauty of this system is we come back, we're always validating feedback we get from users on prototypes and the actual product to determine, okay, what do we work on next? What are people really finding interesting? What do they find lacking in the app that they really need? So that's the planning phase. As I mentioned, I do have one here. I have an old board on App Design Workbook where I took a lot of the things that are in that plan and define phase where we try to generate some app ideas. We have a little workshop to say, well, what type of app would we like to build? Why? Some screenshots of existing apps that you find inspirational. And then after we do that, that's when we do get into this section here where we're starting to figure out who our users are, define the features. And even describe the key functions of those features. So we break it down into features, larger things like log items for recycling, and then key functions of, all right, well, what is that log screen going to look like? So before we've written a single line of code, we have a really good idea of what it is we're going to build. So then we get on to the next step. So once we've figured out, okay, cool, this is what we're going to build, this is where we start prototyping. Now, prototyping can take all sorts of forms. The way that's encouraged here is to do it with Keynote. And the reason why is because when you build out a Keynote prototype, and I'm going to show you an example of a couple different prototypes, you're not investing the same blood, sweat, and tears that you've invested in a lot of code. When you've written a lot of code and you've cobbled together an interface in either SwiftUI or Interface Builder, that's a lot of mental energy you've just expended. And it's so hard when you hand it to someone and they criticize it, it actually hurts that little bit more. I know this from painful experience. Whereas if you're showing them something that you've either mocked up on a whiteboard or developed in Keynote, there was a lot less blood, sweat, and tears. You know, maybe it was easier to lay out the elements. We're just tapping on links to get around. We've faked out a lot of the data underneath the hood. So we're not too upset if somebody says, "Oh no, I don't like this. This doesn't work for me." You're not as upset because you can just throw that out and start over again. And we'll talk about how you get back to there in a bit. But this section walks you through how to map out your prototype. So to take those ideas for features and functions and turn them into a set of screens that we're going to use. This app design workbook uses the example of a trash and recycling app. I'm going to show you that prototype in a second once we get to the end of this section, because they've built an amazing fully featured prototype that actually is a good thing to show off to people, whether they're investors or prospective users of your app. They've done a lot of work to build a really amazingly faithful prototype. And I'll show you some tools you can use to do that. So we can outline our screens. It tells you how to create a Keynote file that's going to look and feel like a real iOS app. It shows you how to group your screens, so where we're logically going to put them in our app. This is also going to be a little callback to our tab bar controllers and our segues and navigation controllers lesson, because we're going to start to figure out, okay, are these all features that depend on one another? If so, just a quick shout out in the chat. If these features all depended on one another, what would we use to display those screens? Would it be a UI navigation controller or a UI tab bar controller? Go on a series of connected screens. So the log, imagine the challenges depended on the log. Is that a navigation controller or tab bar controller? Tab bar, if they, yeah, in this particular scenario here, this looks a bit like a tab bar. Now, if they depended on one another and it was more of a hierarchical flow, we probably would pick a navigation controller for that. A bit like the Contacts app, where we have a list of contacts and we tap on them to go see that individual contact. So this walks you through how to wireframe your app. So to do that, to build out your flow. And you can see here that we actually have a mix of the two different flows. We have both hierarchical navigation and flat navigation. So we've got our tab bar controller as well. And then we start to build out user interface elements. So I'm actually going to hop out of this quick and show you here. They have some good examples of prototypes. So I'm going to open this one up. The Go Green prototype is the one that they're referring to, and they show you screenshots of in this book here. So what we have is, it's just a Keynote file. As you can see in the document inspector, we've set it to be a links-only presentation type. We set the slide size to be custom so that it fits it looks and feels like a real iPhone. So if you actually give this Keynote file to somebody on their iPhone, they can view it and it'll look and feel like a real app. So if I hit play, we can see we've got animations built in. We can tap on the button. Now, none of this is backed by code, but it actually looks and feels like a real application. And they've just done it using user interface elements from the iOS elements Keynote file. I'm going to show you in a second. And links, and that's it. Now, it might behave a little bit differently here than a real tab view would behave. But this is a great thing to show to somebody who you're trying to get interested in your app. Or maybe it's someone who you think, oh, actually, I'm writing this for you. I found that dad who's a kindergarten teacher, father of two, and I can hand him this prototype and say, try it out. Does this behave the way you expect it to behave? Now, that's not all you do. And in fact, I'm going to give you some guidelines. The workbook's going to give you some guidelines on how to run these tests. But this is an amazing thing with no code at all and just 25 slides. We've built a pretty robust looking app. And the beautiful thing about this is that when we get the okay, when that dad that we're trying to target says, oh, I love this app, we have our user interface designed for us. We can now take that over to a storyboard or to Swift UI and very easily start to build that out because we know what it looks like already. We know what it's supposed to behave like because it behaves that way in Keynote. And you can see here, these are the links. And you can create links in Keynote by just tapping on an element and going up to Insert. Sorry, you go up to Insert and Link is there somewhere. I normally do it with Command K. We go to Add Link in Format, and we can make it link to a slide or to web page, email, phone number. If you do it to slide, a little picker pops up, and we can pick which slide, which numbered slide we want the link to go to. So this is a really, really handy way to quickly build something interactive. Now we need to make sure that we do things like wire up the close buttons so that they return you back to another screen with links on it. Wire up the back buttons. But this is also something that we'll give to people in the test script, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So we can refine the prototype. There are links off to different tools we can use. Also in the app design workbook, there are these little asides about Swift UI. So if you want to learn a little bit about Swift UI, this isn't a bad place to start, and you can learn a little bit about layout. This kind of screen might look familiar from our auto layout and stack views lessons because in Swift UI, we have these things called V stacks and H stacks to represent vertical stacks and horizontal stacks. And they behave just like UI stack views. So there's one of the links that I have up there is a link to the iOS templates. That's this one here. I called it curated because I sort of borrowed a couple elements as well that you tend to use in your prototypes, or I tend to use in my prototypes. But you can take any one of these, copy them and paste them into your own prototype so that now you have a navigation bar. So it'll look just like what it's going to look like when you use a UI navigation controller. The curated bit is this. I've also included a calendar, just a date picker view, because a lot of the prototypes that I tend to do in these demos are things like virtual office hours, and of course we need some kind of date picker. So this is just nice and easy to just drop them into my prototypes. But it shows you table views that you might use, and it also gives you different colors. It gives you the shell of the iPhone to use as well. So you can actually put your own app icon and make it look like it actually lives on someone's phone. So you can go as faithful as you want on your prototypes using something like this iOS templates UI elements keynote file. That's usually a fun one to run in class, even if you're not, your students haven't gotten into coding yet. You can get so far doing these keynote prototypes just to give them an idea of what's possible, what could they build. And sometimes you'll find that this is a good way to get them hooked on, well, okay, now I really want to code because I put all this work into the prototype. Now I want to make it to that next step. Testing is incredibly important. It's not as easy and as simple as just saying, okay, cool, here's the prototype, check it out, just try it out. I love that the workbook encourages you to architect your tests. Think about what it is you want people to test and to try out. And through these forms here, they guide you towards building out a script. So you would hand this to somebody who's testing your app and say, hey, this is what I want you to test specifically. And it also reminds us to give a certain amount of context, especially if we're developing just one specific function of a feature at a time, which is the way we're going to be most successful. If we just focus on a very specific part, we have the bigger picture up on our whiteboard or on our Miro board or somewhere. But we have to give context for, hey, I want you to just test this. Try to check your achievements. So maybe we have some pre-populated. So we give them the idea that, okay, you've already maybe logged, so many trash pickups. Excellent. Now go try to find where you get a badge or something like that for it. So the reason why there's so much devoted to this testing stage is that we want to make sure we're getting lots of feedback from our users when we hand it over to them and they're testing it out. Or if we're testing it out ourselves, we want to make sure we're recording all this, because that all feeds into the next stage, which is the validation stage. This is where we take all of our notes. Again, we've got our example forms as well as the filled out ones or the blank ones that we can use. And we can start to build some of these key insights into, okay, how's our prototype performing? Is it doing what we expected it to do? And that will feed really nicely into the final stage. And the thing I like about this is it's not as simple as just a circle and going cyclical every time, going to iterate and then going all the way back to define, because that would be a bit disheartening if every single time you have to redefine everything. This iterate section will let you take those conclusions that you got, organize them a little bit, and then figure out what stage in the process you go back to. Do you go all the way back to the beginning and redefine things? Maybe your prototype was a complete mess. The whole idea for the app, just there's no interest there. Okay, cool. Well, you have to go back and try to figure out, all right, in this case, people have to use two hands. And the users that we're given this app to, whether it's a permanent inability to use two hands, or maybe it's temporary. Maybe they have they always have a baby in one hand. So they have to be able to use the app with one hand. All right, well, we have to go back to that considered diversity step and think about, okay, well, that's a big part of our design then. Let's make sure that you can use it with just one hand. Those are some of the big problems where we have to go way back to the beginning. It might be simply a problem with how we implemented it. So in this case, we would go back to the prototype stage and say, hey, let's refine the prototype. Throw away a couple of screens that maybe didn't work. Why do we have a login screen? We don't need to prompt them to log in straight away. We can actually get them working immediately. Okay, that's a prototype issue. So let's get rid of that. So it's a much shorter cycle. So instead of going all the way back to define everything again, we can just go back to the prototype and fix that. And then in other scenarios, it's going to be our test that's broken. Maybe we weren't clear enough in the script. We didn't have the users focus on certain things, or they got distracted by other things. So we need to maybe rewrite our test scripts to get them a little bit more focused. So that's the App Design Workbook. I highly recommend checking the whole thing out. I love this thing as a way of developing apps. I use it all the time. myself, whenever I'm developing a new app, I always go through this process. And even when I'm coming out with new features, I'll go through this process. Usually developing some Keynote prototypes, sometimes doing a little bit in code, but always doing it kind of lightweight and trying to get feedback quickly so that I don't invest weeks and weeks of development time only to find out, oh, actually, you know what, I've been working on the wrong thing or in the wrong direction the whole time. All right, so that's a quick tour of the app design workbook. Hopefully you found that useful. Like I mentioned, you can find all of this if you go to the teacher materials or student materials. You'll find it here in other resources. There's the app design workbook and the Go Green prototype, so you can check both of them out. Amazing resources, amazing activities to run with your students, to have them go through this process, prototype out a few things, and come away with some amazing ideas for apps.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing resource, and we're finding that a lot of the training centers are beginning to utilize it. So yeah, definitely take a look at that when you all have time. So thank you, Matt, for that. So I think with that, we have come to the end of the Train the Trainer class for this week. I think we won't go around to everybody again because you already said thank you to us and us thank you to you. I just hope you found it useful. From listening to you, it does sound as if you really did find it useful. Matt is of course amazing, so I'm sure we can all give Matt a little round of applause there.
Thanks.
For for his patience and his kindness. You know, I always say this at the end of a T3, it's great to see your skill set, but also, you know, what lovely, nice people you all are, which is as important. As Matt said, get your peer evaluations in as soon as possible. So Matt can write up the evaluations and send them out to you. And we'll give you more information on, you know, what the next steps are when you get your evaluation. Matt, do you have any final closing words?
No, I think we've said it all. I think, I appreciate all the effort and the work that everyone put in this week. It's a lot of time, but you were here the whole time, and you responded to feedback well. And no, I thought you were a lovely group of people. And yeah, just definitely get those peer evaluations over to me, because the sooner I get those, the sooner I can get the evaluations finished. I'm not giving any spoilers, whether you're certified or not. You can all just wait in suspense until next week. And yeah, you'll be getting an email from myself. And if you have successfully become certified, then you get all the instructions in the email. If you haven't, don't worry, there'll also be instructions in the email, but I think you're all relatively safe.
Exactly. And we'll send you also on any invitations to any trainer workshops that we will be running so that you can attend them. So with that, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. I hope you enjoyed it. And we are so looking forward to working with you all in the future and seeing how your institutions will be teaching the iOS. And again, a phenomenal thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. Enjoy your weekend if it's starting today, and if not, if it's starting tomorrow. Enjoy Eid for anybody who is going to go through Eid. I know it's a very special time for you all. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, just write us an email. Thank you again, everybody, and well done. And bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye.